fans, welcome back to Room 237 as I continue my marathon of Italian horror films and Giallo films. And for this, we're going back to 1987 for a Giallo film, when Giallo was pretty much considered dead. For an entry by Lamberto Bava, a fairly underrated director, and that is his 1987 erotic thriller, Delirium. Now, first, there's a ton of movies named Delirium. There's one I reviewed, a recent film from Blumhouse with Topher Grace called Delirium. Italian films alone, there's this. There's one from 1972 that I'll be getting soon. I don't know if it's Italian or American, but there was a Video Nasty from 78 or 79, also called Delirium. There's plenty of movies. Now, by erotic Giallo, I guess it's kind of like erotic thriller, like a Brian De Palma film, which even the cover kind of looks almost like it could be a De Palma film. This movie kicks the sleaze and gratuity way up. I mean, by 1987, like I said, Giallo was pretty much dead. So was slashers, but so Lamberto Bava just pulls out all the stops and just kicks everything up through the roof. And what's really cool about this was, even though he did not write the screenplay, the story is by Luciano Martino. So you have a Martino and a Bava sort of working together on the same vision. So that's really cool. For the cast, you have Serena Grandi, George Eastman, and Daria Nicolodi, the frequent Argento collaborator. And a lot of this does feel like an Argento Giallo, especially with a lot of the camera work, the lighting, just the way the story plays out. And having Daria Nicolodi there really helps kind of sell that illusion and feel as well. Sadly, she passed away, I believe, this year. It was either this year or last year. I meant to do a tribute video for her, but I barely had any time to make videos around the time that happened, so I just didn't get around to it. November 26, 2020 was when she passed, age 70. And she's also Asia Argento's mother. Sorry. Still have the dog, still stuffing. And according to George Eastman, is also the killer from both Anthropophagus and Absurd. He also wrote those two films. He's in this as well. Music is by Simon Boswell, and the music is a big collection of things. It's 80s synth pop, kind of like murder rock. You get your other regular Giallo sounding music. Then you get your heavy metal stuff towards the end, which Phenomena and Opera would also use. So that's awesome. And this is the Code Red release. This came out recently. Very good release. It has a lot of interviews, which I haven't seen yet, but apparently Bava, Eastman talk shit about each other and other people in them. So that sounds interesting. Alright, so the story is... I'm just reading the back of this real quick. Alright, so anyway, so the story is Serena Grandi plays Gloria, who was a former model who now runs a men's magazine called Pussycat. And she becomes the target of this killer's obsession, which manifests itself in the killer taking out her models and sending her photos, in her magazine photos of the dead models with a giant picture of one of her modeling shots. And she doesn't know who to believe, who it is. And this is one where we do kind of get some law enforcement trying to figure it out, but it's really about her and her descending into paranoia and delirium. Her she does have a wheelchair-bound young neighbor named Mark, who is played by Carl Zinni, who looks remarkably like a young Night Stalker. So, and then she has a brother named Tony, played by Vonnie Corbellini. George Eastman plays a former flame that's come back into her life, named Alex. And then Sabrina Salerno is another model named Sabrina. And then Lino Salemi plays Inspector Corsi. Now, the first kill, and what really made me want to see this was, this is a very visual film. And on In Search of Darkness 2, they showed clips from this. Basically, the two scenes a lot of people really remember from this, which is the first victim and the second victim, because it has very... Even though there is a lot of Argento put into the kills, especially with how it's shot and the lighting, there's also a lot of Cronenberg type feel to it. Because the first victim is, because it opens up with a photo shoot at her house. And the model, her friend Kim, goes to leave. And we get this panning shot of the pool. It's nighttime. And we get like the nice Giallo music. And it pans, we see her sort of walk around the pool. Camera goes in the opposite direction until it meets up again. And when it meets up with her, the music changes to like a heavier, more foreboding sound. There's this deep red lighting everywhere, and her face is now just a giant eyeball. It's a giant eyeball with the red veins going around her head, a little slit for her mouth. That's supposed to be the twisted visions of the killer. And we see the killer has a blonde wig, stabs her with a pitchfork, and in slow motion, we see the pitchfork go in her. We see the blood come out of her mouth, and we see her fall backwards into the pool. Very Argento style kill with the Cronenberg naked lunch kind of weird head visual effect. I thought this movie was going to have more of that. It doesn't. It really just has one scene. So if you go into this thinking you're going to get like a Cronenberg head trip, you're probably going to be disappointed. The second one like that, because this is also not a body count movie. There's really only a few deaths. Very few. But the second one is this girl, Sabrina, who, actually I want to talk about her photo shoot, because her photo shoot is supposed to look like mummies are taking her clothes off. The way these mummies look, the way what the bandages are, like the kind of face they're making, and how it looks like they have solid black with glowing pupils, really makes them look like Iron Maiden's Eddie from Power Slave. So I don't know if that's what they were going for. Even if it's not, it made me think of it. So points for that. Her death is as she's in the shower. As she gets out, and well, first we see someone in a beekeeper outfit cutting these straps to these window shutters. And then we see her get out of the shower, and from here down she's completely, a naked, beautiful woman, but she's got the head of a bee. Again, doing that Cronenberg kind of visual. And the killer just releases these bees that are attracted to the scent of her perfume. And we get a lot of scenes up close of their stingers going into her. Not as close up where it looks like a lot of them just on top of her. Kind of looks like they're still pumping their stingers into her. Eventually, she ends up at the bathroom. Killer just pours perfume all over her. And then we see that she's covered in them. Then he takes pictures of her. She's got just welts and bumps all over her. Decent looking effect. I also love the music when the killer is setting up his photo shoots. Getting the body posed right. Getting the camera ready. This very red lighting. Has good killer music put to it. And so by this point, Gloria knows that she is the center of the killer's obsession. She wants to sell the magazine. She thinks that will sort of stop the murders. One of her old acquaintances who really makes her feel like a rival wants to buy her out. Daria Nicolodi is one of her close friends and assistants. And then, eventually the killer just starts targeting her more personally. They start scouting out this one department store for a photo shoot. Eventually, Gloria is by herself and starts hearing the killer over the PA system, disguising his voice to be like a playful child and giggling and laughing after threatening to kill her. It's a decent, creepy scene. The lights go out. She sees the dead body of her brother going up the stairs, covered in blood. Which is just the aftermath. We don't see the actual death. And then when she's being chased through the department store, that's when we get the heavy metal, kind of guitar solo-y score that I thought was awesome. With that, I'm going to go into spoilers. I think I've spoiled a little too much already, but like I always say, if you like Giallos, definitely give this a look. But more specifically, if you are into Argento-style Giallos, or even Brian De Palma films, because I did see this as kind of like a De Palma film, with some weird head-trippy stuff like Cronenberg, although very minimal in this, then definitely check it out. It's certainly sleazy, but the sleaze is kicked up a notch and done in such a way that I do think there's a difference between erotic and sleaze. This is definitely an erotic Giallo. And it definitely pick up the Code Red Blu-ray because it does have some good features on here. Just don't pay attention to the back of it too much. And I'm going to say why once I get into spoilers. So with that, spoilers. So eventually the killer does catch up to her at her house. We see, I think we see a person floating in her pool with the blonde wig from the beginning. The person gets out and removes the wig, and we see that it's her brother Tony. Now at this point, we've all thought that the wheelchair-bound neighbor Mark could have been responsible. She has a dream where he can walk, and he does sort of vaginally attack her with a flashlight. We think it's one of her other photographers. We think, it could be that other woman that wants to buy out the company. But, and I will say it is kind of a cheat because this character was supposed to be dead. We see his dead, bloody body. But okay, he faked his death, but I I didn't let it bother me too much. I guess I can wrap my head around it. It is one of the bigger cheats in a Giallo. I'll say that. In a Giallo that I've seen so far. His motive is that he's madly in love with his sister and wants to be closer to her. He tries to attack her. Mark, the neighbor who we've seen, likes to look out his window with his rifles and, pretend to shoot people. Ends up shooting him in the dick, which I thought was kind of cool. And then I think they say that he will live. He'll just be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. And we do get that he did was in a car accident that killed his fiance and put him in a wheelchair. So it did make him a hero and put someone else in a wheelchair. Him and Gloria share, a nice goodbye at the hospital. And that's the end of the movie. Oh, also, this other photographer, I think it's photographer, Roberto, they think the cops, he's the one they finger for the murders. But yeah, I will say, it being her brother with the motive of loving her, it does fit just with how sort of perverse this film can get. But having to be faking his own death and kind of taking that cheat route, I will say that's cheap. But it didn't ruin the film for me. And I will say, even though this cover, I like how the cover, they make it look like an actual photo that she would have done from a magazine, because that plays a big part in it. But is this my favorite film by Bava? Lamberto Bava? No. I liked Macabre a lot more. I will say I like this better than A Blade in the Dark. Normally, I don't really watch a lot of erotic films. I mean, I like Dressed to Kill. I like Eyes Wide Shut. I think this is a little bit different than that, but I really liked the Argento style camera work and the lighting. I really liked the music, especially the stylized kills. There's very little kills, but each one stands out because of how creative or well done they were. The Cronenberg style visions of the killer I thought were creative and well done. I did like the effects. The bee head did kind of look like a mask, but the eyeball face lady, and then when the bee girl was all stung and done up, there was a lot to enjoy about this movie. And it was cool to see George Eastman in a film where he's just not a killer drone. I know he's been in a lot of other films, but I've only seen Anthropophagus and Absurd. So yeah, that is Lamberto Bava's 1987 erotic giallo film, Delirium. Stay tuned for more Italian horror films and giallos. Thank you for watching.